All right, I'm calling to order the Gladstone City Council regular meeting, October 27, 2015. It's now 6:31 p.m. Jolene, will you do the roll call, please?
Councilor Sickman?
Here.
Councilor Mercereau?
Here.
Councilor Johnson?
Here.
Councilor Turner is absent. Councilor McMahon?
Here.
Councilor Reisner?
Here.
Mayor Jacobellis?
Here. Can we do the flag salute, please? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. As per usual, folks, if you haven't heard, you're going to have the ability to talk to the council. If you fill out the 3x5 cards, yellow cards in the back there, and hand them to Jolene, she'll call your name, and then you can talk on whatever topic you desire. Any agenda additions or corrections?
Yes, Your Honor. I would like to scratch the presentation from Carlotta Colette at Metro. That was my mistake. I got her on the wrong agenda. She would like to come next time on November 10th, so I will move that forward. And then at the end, it's not on here, but I would like to talk a little bit about the recruitment of the city manager, or excuse me, city administrator, and the process that we need to go through. It's time to get the calendars out and start talking about when we're going to review applicants, how we're going to do the final interviews. So I'd like to do that at the end of the meeting, if that's okay.
We'll put that under business carry forward?
Sure, that'd be great.
Okay, number F, or make it F. Any other agenda additions or corrections? At this time, we'll take any business from the audience. Any business from the audience? No one would like to speak. Moving down to the consent agenda, we have two items: the approval of the minutes September 30th and October 13th, and the approval of monthly financials.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve consent agenda 1 and 2.
Second.
The motion was made by Councilor McMahon to accept the consent agenda and was seconded by Councilor Sickman. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
All opposed? Okay, the consent agenda has been approved. Presentations 2A. Tammy Stemple, and she's probably running late.
It doesn't look like she's here. Perhaps we could
Right.
move that on down some.
Okay. Correspondence. No correspondence this month. Moving down to the regular agenda item, number 3, approval of staff changes.
Yes, Your Honor. At this point, I had 3 things kind of going on. I thought I'd bring them to you all at once instead of dribbling them in one at a time. One is Public Works Director. We interviewed Public Works Director, had 11 applicants. Staff narrowed those 11 to 4 that met the requirements or came close. And staff put a panel together, and we interviewed those 4 clients and then reduced them to 2. And Councilor Siekman and Councilor Mercereau talked to the 2 finalists. And from those 2, I did background checks, checked around, and I have a candidate that I would like to recommend. And that candidate is Jim Wynot from West Lynn. He's got great references. His background check was great. He's got 20-plus years in the field. I think he'll be a really big help with the administrative chores in Public Works right now, with things like NPDS that we pretty much don't look at closely enough. Implementing the the stormwater master plan, water system master plan, helping with the master plan for the sewer master plan that's underway right now. He'll be our rep on that. So anyway, I'm excited about that one. I'll just run through the other 2 quickly. Senior Center Assistant, Rhonda came to me from the senior center. Her second in command out there is moving on to other opportunities, and Rhonda would like to hire a position that's in the budget for half-time. We talked about it. She certainly could use more help, and certainly somebody else on site, particularly in times when she's the only one in the building. And I also felt that this would be a good way for us to get somebody that would focus on social media, and I've built that into her job description for a quarter time. Somebody that can run our Facebook page, can report to staff on what's going on, make sure our website's current and up to date. So I took that opportunity to increase the staff position from 1.5 FTEs for administration at the senior center to 2 FTEs. Impact this year is about $9,000 with benefits, and in years going forward about $18,000 with benefits. So that's the second one. The third one is Interim Police Chief Jolly has been nice enough to say that he would stick it out as interim chief until the first of the fiscal year. I think he's doing a really good job, seems to have a lot of good things over there going on. I believe his staff is supportive, and I think when you get a new administrator on board, it's going to be difficult for the administrator to take on a lot of new recruitments. I just hate to put that pressure on the new administrator, whoever it is. And I also think Chief Jolly will be instrumental in transitioning whoever the new administrator is. You can't have a lot of new people going into that transition. So I think kind of council approving the fact that he's going to be the interim until July 1, I think is a really reasonable thing at this point. So with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have on this item.
I have a couple of questions.
Yes, sir.
In the past, the city has got a 5-tier promotion for new hires.
Mm-hmm.
Is that in effect on the director's positions as well? Are they hired in at the bottom? I mean, I don't want to get into your negotiations with what you're going to present, but which of these would fall into that tier program that would come in at the bottom tier, or maybe they were chosen to be put in at the middle third tier? What can we expect for the manager in particular? Or is it just he's hired in at a set rate and then would get COLA and merit increases as approved down the road, or how does that work?
Well, I got to confess, with many things here, they don't necessarily match what I've seen done other places, and what I would expect for the hire of actually both of these to the woman at the woman, I say that's wrong because there's a woman outgoing, but the person at the senior center, whoever that is, comes in as the number 2, and for the public works director would be hired in the bottom quartile of the range. So I'd split the salary range into 4 chunks, and someplace in that bottom quartile. Of course, that's what negotiations are all about, and we try to make it the best we can here and still get it the applicant we want. And then after 6 months, I would look at some sort of an increase with a review, because, and I think Jolene's going to help me with this, I don't know what what is the amount of time it takes for somebody to become a full employee, probationary period.
Typically it's 6 months.
So 6 months is what typically I've done also, and so part of that negotiation may be some sort of an increase with completion of probation, and so you then have, at that point, they become a regular employee and are subject to COLA and cost of living just like everybody else.
But for these two positions, it would be merit and COLA increases that wouldn't automatically enroll them in the 5-tier program that we use for the other. Is that right?
I don't see that right now. Jolene, correct me if I'm wrong, you're the HR manager.
Yes, they would be put on one of the tiers, and then they would be moved up on each tier that's appropriate.
Even for managers?
Even for
Okay.
managers, that's how it works.
Okay.
At
Okay.
least it's how it has worked here in the past.
Then I stand corrected, and we'll make it work the way it has in the past. But I still think you hire in that bottom quartile. So if you've got 5 tiers, then you're hiring in the bottom tier unless there's something extraordinary that makes you jump a tier. But
The other question I had was with the senior center assistant, are we going to be able to find somebody with the qualifications to manage a senior center and quarter-time, I don't know what to call it, IT?
Social media
Yeah, I mean,
representative.
Is that something that would be a
I've-
stretch for that type of position, or you think that's fairly feasible?
I've talked to Rhonda a little bit, and this is mostly my perspective, but the senior center is probably the place where the most social media will go in and out. They put on more activities and more events than I think even the library to some degree. So I think for that reason, I don't think it's unreasonable to expect that position to take on the other social media requirements for the city.
This was all I had.
So, in the past, when we're changing staffing positions, that has gone through the budget committee. So, 2 years ago, when the library went to Sunday hours, there was new positions required, and that went through the budget committee. Last year, or for this fiscal year, we added a public works director and finance director, which has now become an accounting manager. So, in general, we go through the budget committee for that. I guess I'd kind of like to see them do that. You know, I'm sorry, I'm sure this is a very worthy position, but I think that we ought to stick with what we've done in the past. I think that a mid-year budget review is probably coming up in January. We've done that in the past as well, and maybe this could be done at that time. This could be added at that time. Perhaps somebody could start half-time and wait for the budget committee to approve full-time.
I would like to vie for the best possible speed. Rhonda's here.
I can't wait till January to replace the person, so
Yeah, I'm just
somebody in place soon.
Yeah, I'm just saying that's what we have done in the past. That seems to be our standard operating procedure, and I can think of some people on the budget committee that would probably want to be a part of that.
Can I convene the budget committee as at best possible speed as
Yeah, I
opposed to
believe so.
waiting until January?
I got one comment on it.
Sure,
It was a half-time position,
yes,
okay? We're making it a full-time position.
that's my proposal.
Potential,
Yes,
okay? But part of the year is already gone,
yes,
okay? And the money is in the budget for the half position,
yes,
right?
yes, sir.
Okay, how many months of that's gone?
Actually, the halftime position is still here, so I
Okay.
think I see where you're headed with that, but we're spending the halftime position every month. So we don't have any savings for that. We have other positions that have savings, but I'm not.
Well, the other thing I'll mention to this, that whether we call it a business or not, in fact, this is a business, okay? And I sure don't like to run a business if I have to wait 2 or 3 months to get a person. And as Rhonda's
Pointed
suggested,
out, yes.
you can't wait that long.
Yeah.
And also put in the fact that Rhonda, I think, has been very conservative and a spendthrift in general. And so waiting for that, just to make a point that we met with the budget committee, I've got a problem with that.
Okay.
So
I guess that's,
that's my opinion.
I think that's why they elect us to make these decisions sometimes, and I think this is it's an easy decision for me, and that is to move forward on the position. And I thought we had it budgeted for 3/4 time already from the fiscal year, is that correct? And she only was working half-time the full year. So in theory, we're already have saved 1/4 that we're then going to use on the backside, so...
As much as I like your math, I got in the budget book, and it does say part-time. It does say half FTE.
Oh, it does just say
in
half.
the budget,
I
in the
thought it was
budget
3/4.
document. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I thought it was too. I looked it up. So, yeah, I like your math, but
that doesn't change my vote. Still, I think
Okay.
it's a worthy thing to move forward on.
Anything, Neil?
Well, you have good merit, but I agree with Rhonda. I mean, that someone needs to be hired now, and as Tom said, she's been extremely frugal with her budget over all the years. And granted, the budget committee would like, and I agree. I'm a big process person, as you know. Would like to be involved, should be involved, but I think because of the timing, that it would be appropriate to go ahead and do this on this one position. Bring them in. Either we can have a meeting next month. I mean there's other jurisdictions that meet every 3-4 months during the year as a checkup. We've been doing it haphazardly every 6, so and just advise them that this is something that we thought was a necessary, expedient decision without and to help out our senior center and those citizens that we help there.
Any other, I'm sorry.
So no, that's all I have on that particular position.
Okay.
So I have a couple of questions in
Sure.
regards to the last. So I just wanted to clarify one clarification, a couple others to follow. You're asking that we hold off 15 to 18 months without a full-time police chief. Is that correct?
well, actually, it's only another 7 months or so until July 1st of 2016.
Right, but it'd be a total of about 15 to 18 because we haven't had a police chief since March.
Right.
I mean, a
You bet.
designated one. And so my, I guess, half statement, half question. Prior administration came, let's see here, came to city council saying that they needed 5 police department supervisors, which was approved by budget, as was just talked about, where it went through the process, city council, and now you're suggesting that we only need 4, if we can go 15 to 18 months with just 4 supervisors?
I think I am suggesting that just because it's working right now. I'm not saying it's optimal. I'm not saying they're not missing some stuff. I'm not saying that they're not paying extra overtime. I'm just saying it's working, and I'm trying to look at the other things that you're doing with a new fire chief, a new library director, a new city manager, city administrator.
I thought the library director was also being put off
Being
till after.
held until, but I think that position can go immediately when the new city administrator comes on board. I don't think you need to wait so long for that.
Why would a library director take precedent over a police chief, if I may ask?
No, it's fine. Basically, the one we have, the interim, is done in January and won't stick around.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to be looking, or the new administrator is going to be looking for some help there. I think there are some things we can do to cobble together a library management plan, but you're changing a lot of staff, and I'm trying to turn the radio knob a few turns at a time as opposed to yanking it. That's just my opinion. You guys are welcome to set it where you want to.
Well, I appreciate
Yeah.
your input.
Any other discussion on the 3 staff positions he's proposing? Or the changes? Any other stuff?
Me.
All right, so why don't we do this, since there's some, well, I'll entertain a motion to adopt all of the recommendations, or any variation thereof.
Well, I think I'd like to start out with trying to adopt all of them. So I'd like to make a motion that we approve agenda item number 3 with staff recommendations.
I'll second.
it.
Okay, the motion was made by Counselor Sickman. I think Counselor Mercer got the second in on
Works
it.
for me.
This is agenda item 1, if the record
Oh.
could show that. I think it is, isn't it?
No, it's
Regular
3.
agenda item number 3.
I've got a misprint on the agenda item.
Yeah.
It says number 1, my bad.
Okay, so the motion was made, it was seconded, and now all in favor of approving the staff changes, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, all the changes have been approved.
Thank you very much. Could I add one thing along staff changes line? I didn't put it on here because it's running true to what you asked for, which is we have hired an accounting manager. Would you like to report on that?
Sure. Our accounting manager that was hired, her name is Carolyn Gray. She will be starting next Monday with us, and we're very excited about it. So if you're around, stop in, say hello, introduce yourself.
Moving Gladstone forward, as I've heard it said. So
Sure.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your consideration on this one.
Okay, moving down to item number 4, the judge contract, directions to staff. So, Jolene, you want to?
I believe I'll let Jolene go ahead and present this one.
Okay, so the judge's contract that we have right now expires December 31st. As my staff report said, in the recent past, the staff went ahead, put together a selection committee, selected the most appropriate candidate, which is Judge Balouf, and then brought it before the council and had council approval. Because this is a new council from the last time, I am requesting direction on how you would like to handle this, because the judge sits at the pleasure of the council. One thing that Judge Balouf did mention to me in a conversation that we had today regarding this matter, she wanted me to bring up to you that Oregon City, in fact, they have an executive meeting every 2 years with their judge, during which they have some sort of conversation or whatever. At that executive meeting, the council makes a decision whether they want to go out for a hire of a new judge or whether they would simply like to reappoint the current judge. So that wasn't one of the options. I wasn't aware that there was another city that did that, but since it's been brought to my attention, she requested you to know about that. That is an additional option for you to consider on how to take care of this.
And there's four options, or at least 3, and then an option.
An option.
And we just added one.
And added one.
Right.
So an option, and an option,
Right.
some kind of executive session.
So, curiosity question, in that the current contract expires at the end of the year,
Correct.
which gives us 2 months. Would we be able to put together and select, advertise if that was our desire,
Yes,
and have it all done before end of
Would.
December?
I could make that happen. Yes.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Discussion. Anything? Pat, start your end.
The only thing I'd like to see maybe is a longer than 2 years, maybe a 4-year term, but just so we're not discussing this every 2 years, I'd I was not real privy to what the prior judge, what kind of a contract did he have? Do you know, or was it?
Problem was he had no contract.
Right.
So I'd probably rather see a every 4 year instead of 2, but other than that, I'm all right with number 1 or number 2 with it being every 2 years. Preference would be 4. I think
Every
that
4
makes
years?
more sense, but at least have some sort of contract, yeah.
Okay.
So, I hadn't thought of that. I kind of like that idea. I like the idea of, even if, however we decide to go, that the idea of having a executive session evaluation being that the only 3 people that that we appoint or quote unquote supervise is the judge, our city administrator, and city attorneys. And we have at least the practice has been the last several years, had a evaluation with the city administrator. At least at my knowledge, we have never really sat down and had an evaluation with the city attorney, though I casually talked to David about that not too long ago, and other cities have and do that with their firm. So I think it would behoove us to sit down and get some feedback from our city judge. And my thought before mentioned was kind of do a combination 1-2 was for an option, which kind of played into 4. But I think it does kind of sound fair to have a sit down with the judge before we decide. But whatever you guys, I'm curious as to other input.
So after I realize everybody's different, every contractor and employee is different, but we had some huge problems in this city with the previous judge. Landed us in court. It was very expensive to settle. I think it was kind of an aberration. I think some of that aberration came from the fact that at least practically it appeared like the judge worked for the city administrator, and I think that there were some problems there, and I think that the council should take its position as the supervisor of the judge seriously. Right now, outside of, hi, how are you in the hall or something, we have no interaction with the judge whatsoever, and I think that should change. I think we should be able to have a conversation on occasion with the judge, executive session or otherwise. I believe that she has some issues right now, code enforcement or some such. I think she has some ideas there that it would be nice to hear from her, and some ideas of how to better handle some of the problems that she sees the problems in the city. I mean, she sees them every time that there is a session. So I think that some better communication between the council and the judge would be good. A meeting to review the position. I kind of like Oregon City's idea. I think that's not a bad idea. Right now, with the problems from the past, I would like to do it 2 years, maybe if we can get a pattern together, get a program together, maybe we can look at 4 years down the road, but initially at least 2 years. I think that we should be doing that. And if we're looking at renewing this now, maybe we should just give it a shot and have an executive session and chat with her and do that. But I think that the council needs to take its position as the managing body of the judge seriously and should have more interaction with the judge.
I think the executive session was a good idea. I'm not too worried about the 2 to 4 years. 2 is fine with me. But a good discussion in an executive session would give us a good insight to what the judge feels and how we should vote.
Well, maybe I had a little bit different take on the executive session. I really like the executive session idea myself, but I don't think it's so much a conversation with the judge as it is council would make a determination that we need to request applications for a new judge or not. I think conversation with the judge would maybe be prior to that decision. But I do like the idea of an executive session to discuss what we should do. And then if the decision was to open the position up for new candidates, I would like to see something similar to an option and 1 and 2 combined. That person is responsible to the city council, and I think we should be heavily involved in hiring that person. But I also don't have a problem with staff being involved as well. So I'd like to see a combination at the point where we do hire our next judge, to put some sort of combination of 1 and 2 in there with very heavy council approval, or very heavy council input throughout the process. One thing that I had talked to the city attorney about during another conversation was these personnel contracts. And he said their office is actually starting to go away from contracts with their managers. So regardless of what we do with that, I think that's something that we need to discuss as well. There's a reason that other cities are going away from personnel contracts for their basically at-will employees. And I think that maybe we need to have that discussion as well. I think I would like to see it stay at 2 years for right now. The other comment that I have is the 3 people that report to council are the city administrator, the judge, and the city attorney's office. The city administrator has started giving us weekly reports of what's happening. I don't believe I've ever seen a report from the judge with what's happening. I think that would be a nice piece of communication. I don't think a weekly report is realistic, because I think they only meet once a week or
Twice a month.
Twice a month. You know, so maybe even as far out as a quarterly report. But I would think that we would like to see something that from somebody that we're responsible for on a regular basis. And so that was just another thought I had being we was looking at this. And that's all my comments.
Your Honor, may I just add something? If you have an executive session, it has to be under the auspices of being a review. That's the only way you can have an executive session with the judge, because the judge works for you and you have the right to review in executive session. Can't make any decisions, can't set salary, can't choose to fire them or hire them. You got to do that in open session. But you can certainly review them, and you know that review can take a lot of different ways to review. There's a lot of ways to do that, but it's a review. It's not just a conversation.
Okay,
so
thanks
if I'm
for clarifying that.
Yeah.
So moving forward, since this is coming up in January,
End of December is when the contract expires.
so
We got,
an executive session to do a review probably is not going to do us much good on this go-around. What are we reviewing? I mean, I'm asking a question. I don't know what we'd be reviewing. How many, court cases she presided over, or I don't know.
Well, perhaps you could give us a report, a report of her. She's been here 2 years, is that right?
correct.
Correct.
Yeah, maybe she could prepare a report to the council,
And-
of just in general. I mean, not every case, but caseload, how many people are coming through during court, her opinions of what type of things, what changes she might like to see made, et cetera.
The one thing I could say on a lot of that is probably that would just end up going to city staff. I would think that that's probably something she would delegate to the folks downstairs as far as how many cases. I would assume that would be the easiest thing to do because they probably track it better, so
Yeah, and
we're just putting extra workload on people downstairs.
I wasn't thinking specificity. I was thinking more of a higher level view and just give us a feel for what's going on in the court. Because we know basically nothing about it. So, just a thought.
The judge did say today that she would welcome any of you to spend some time in court on a regular basis, so that you are familiar with what's going on.
From the back row, I would hope,
Yes,
instead of
yes.
up at the table.
Yes.
So I'm just trying to dial us in so how we can help direct Jolene to proceed. I'm hearing a combo of option 1 and 2 with the preference in the future, an executive session review. So in other words, if whatever in option 1 and 2, and we get to the point where Judge Balouf is our judge again for the next 2 years, prior to that 2-year stint, we go into the executive session and do a review of her work. And we can combine it with the quarterly report necessary to give us the info, and maybe even at that point, her 2-year summary of what she's done, or 1-year summary.
Yeah.
Does that sound like where we're going? I mean, at least that's what I'm hearing. We don't have time, or wouldn't be productive to have that review now. Because what are we going to be reviewing?
I have a question. So we want to just reopen and rehire every 2 years, is how I'm reading some of this. Is that how you read, like, number 1? Because you're opening it, interviewing qualified candidates, so it's like we're rehiring every 2 years, which I guess, is that the route we want to take, or do we want to, if we're happy with how the judge has been working for 2 years, we're not going to do that for the city administrator every 2 years, I don't think, go through a process of rehiring, essentially.
So that's why I'm asking you, do you want to simply, as a council, decide you want to reappoint? Do you?
I guess that would be how I would rather do it, I think, would be a review every year or every 2 years, and then if it is satisfactory, then we would just reappoint versus, because I'm reading 1 to be that we're reopening the whole process, and I don't think we need to do that.
Well, the contract would be for 2 years, but we could have the option of.
Well, you could have the option of meeting with her ahead of time, or whomever it is ahead of time, to evaluate an executive session, and far enough ahead of time that if you're not satisfied with the answers, then you open the position. If you are, you simply reappoint. We then create a new contract with a 2-year out date.
Right.
Well, we review our city administrator every year, so.
Well, every year would be fine.
You know, we have a review process for our city administrator, and, you know, I would think the judge would be similar. Now, I'm probably getting the 2 things confused, you know.
No, I've got to be fine, an annual review.
And a contract, you know, they may be 2 different things, but you're right, if we don't have a good review, if we don't like what we hear, then we should talk about contract. It's very similar to the city administrator.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I think the big difference, though, is the city administrator is an employee where the judge isn't. And so we do need to have a contract, well, I would say a contract with both. But the process is going to be a little different because it's a contract position versus an employee position.
And I'd probably like to have some clarification from our city attorney on that before on contracts.
Well, I've got a copy of it right here, the current one.
When you said that the city attorney's office is going away from contracts, I've heard that as well, but the judge is a contracted individual, so she has to have a contract, otherwise we're back in the same as the previous issue.
You don't want to go there.
We do not.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly. That's why I was wondering, I just made that my point, in that we have to have a contract.
Right, okay.
Or him, whoever we
Okay.
decide.
So for tonight, since we're in a December deadline, and does anybody disagree or have any other opinion about an executive session / review at this time of the current municipal court judge?
What, yeah,
I don't know what we gain from it.
right. What would, I understand. The question that I just thought of as you were mentioning that is, if we open it up, what are we looking for that would be, same, different, or indifferent as to someone with more experience, maybe somebody that offers night court again? I'm kind of curious as to what different criteria, or would there be any different criteria that we would be looking for in opening it up for new candidates? And I'm not advocating that we don't. I'm just kind of asking in the same vein as you as to what would we be looking for in a evaluation?
Well, I guess that's where our involvement would take into consideration, if we went with that hybrid of option 1-2, where at least one city council would be on that selection committee, then that one city council person, whoever it is, we go, hey, what about this, and what about that, and what about this, and what about that, and then they go to the selection committee and say, hey, when we write this up, we want to kind of look at maybe, are they available, are they, considering, or this and that and the other thing.
But I'm kind of looking at that as an option, because I think we should always have the option first after the interview. What was the term?
Selection committee?
No. Review. After the review, to have the option available to just reappoint.
Right.
Okay? And then if we choose not to reappoint,
right,
that's when this option 1 and 2 would come into place. Is that what you're...
Right, but...
Okay.
And I agree with that concept. I think, at least from what I'm gathering, that's kind of the consensus. Executive review in a timely manner prior to the expiration of the contract.
And then just reappoint.
And then if we're satisfied, reappoint. If not, then we have time to then put it out for open.
Which would be next year then, not...
Well,
Okay, so do you want then, considering that, do you want then to have a contract on a yearly basis? Because I'm assuming you're going to want to review, someone said that they wanted to review yearly. Because are you going to review with not the option to move to a new person if a review, whoever the judge may be, would not be satisfactory?
Is a judge, or are there people, attorneys out there who are going to want to be applying for a judgeship that's only going to be a year at a time? I don't know.
I have no idea.
I don't either. That's,
Can we, as a formality, because I think we're getting to the point where it's kind of a foregone conclusion, we're probably going to recontract, but can we, as a formality, have a meeting with the judge and ask for a fairly high-level report of how things are going, and have a short Q&A with her? I mean, this year, and 2 years from now, or whenever that is, we start earlier in the year, have a review like we do with the city administrator, and decide then as to redo the contract. But kind of this year, if we did it before the end of this year, it would just kind of be a formality to get some input, to get some Q&A, and then redo the contract. I mean, it's the one position that reports to the council that we have zero interaction with, and I think that in and of itself is kind of a problem. I think we ought to work on that.
What's your timeline, Jolene? I mean, what's your timeline for getting, if in fact we're going to repost this? What's the basic drop dead date where you need to?
I don't have a basic drop dead date, but if you want me to repost it and have a selection committee and have someone hired, we need to do it like soon in order to make this work. So
like next week soon?
Within the next couple weeks, yeah. So what about this, if I can just make a suggestion based on what I'm hearing? What if we reappointed for however long you want to reappoint for this time? We invite the judge to come and talk to you in more like a work session format, because we're not going to discuss her performance. You just want an update. At that point, you can tell the judge, well, during the discussion, these are the things that we'd like to get from you in the future on a quarterly basis, whatever, so she knows what your expectation is. And then going forward in however many years, 1, 2, 4, whatever you decide, then we would go with the executive session, and then reappoint or move to a hybrid of 1 and 2.
I agree with all of that. I agree with all of that.
Can you stay on for the next couple of years?
A curiosity question, if I could, Ross, in that you've got experience with working with municipal judges, and how does city councils in the past that you've worked with evaluated their municipal judge?
I gotta say, in the probably 7 cities I've been in, it's pretty much, if it's not broke, don't fix it. And the only time they put a new judge in is if the old judge quits or something rises to the level that they need to take action. Pretty much that position is not very closely managed by council.
Mm-hmm. So there's no, like, form or process that...
Yeah,
because I've never seen anything through League of Oregon Cities.
And of course I use Sherwood all the time, but I think Judge Jack's been there for 20 years or something like that. And Newburgh had the same situation, and other cities, Independence, had a television judge for a while, Skyped in and ran court because it was hard to get somebody in that part of the valley that was qualified to do it. So, I mean, there's some different things, but usually council doesn't get that involved. That's not that you shouldn't, don't get me wrong. I think I like the idea of putting it more on the track of a city manager, and I mean, it's a position you guys manage, and even the attorney, to some degree, you guys ought to do the same thing there. You're managing the position. It says so in the charter. You ought to manage the position, And I think it's really a smart idea to have the judge. He ought to be able to give you a monthly report. I mean, police put together monthly reports on arrests. She ought to put together a monthly report on convictions. I mean that's the cycle. So, kind of where your money's at, So,
thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
You good, then?
Okay, so just to recap, we are going to have her at a meeting, let's say, November council meeting. I'll invite her to the November council meeting to have a discussion, a work session discussion with you all. All right? I need to, though, go ahead and attend to this contract. Is your preference to have a 1-year contract to extend it, or do you want a 2-year contract?
Can we make that decision in this?
You are directing me.
Okay.
Yes, if council is in favor, then, I mean, you're the contracting authority.
It doesn't require a motion.
Okay.
It just requires, because, I mean, you're just telling me how you want the staff to proceed forward.
Affectionately known as a head nod.
Mm-hmm.
I think I would like to see a 1-year contract.
Extension.
Extension or a new 1-year contract, however that seems to work out, and that would give us time to get these other things in place, and it wouldn't be 2 or 4 years down the road before it got revisited. Give us a chance to get up to speed. So that's...
Okay, so we got 1 for 1 year.
Yeah.
2 year here.
2 years.
Tom?
I was still at 2 years.
All right. Neil?
Two, but question is, are we just going to, we're going to open it up, or we're just going to...
This time, reappoint.
Reappoint,
So
okay.
you're directing me,
Two.
how many years? Okay,
2 years will be fine.
2 years.
okay.
Okay, 2 years. Okay, so listen, the only thing I will say,
Mhm.
look at our agenda items. If we can't get her in November, December's fine, whatever, let's not...
Okay.
Let's go into January. Maybe she can get you
Yeah,
a monthly report or have
Since
some
we're
ideas.
already basically saying extend it out,
All
we
right.
can wait to do
Yeah.
our presentation.
Fair
That would give
enough.
her more time and give us time to get through some of the stuff.
Head nod, head nod.
Head nod, everybody, good,
Good.
very good.
Very much.
You're in the
Thank you.
minutes as a head nod.
All right. We are opening it back up for business from the audience. That was the end of the regular agenda items. Anything from business from the audience? Any 3x5 cards up here?
No.
No, no?
We're going to do business carried forward at some point?
Yeah, we're going down to discussion item. Oh, I thought I read here. Okay, I'm sorry.
What about number five?
All right.
No, he wants us to get out of here.
Discussion items, number 5, draft of resolution for Dull Beach mitigation.
Yes, this has been included in your packet so that you guys can see what the Port of Portland would like to come next council meeting on the 10th, and they would like you to vote on this item. I've already talked to a couple of counselors, and you'd like more information. I would love to record what information it is you're looking for so that you can make a good business decision on this. So with that, you've had a chance to look at it. What can we answer for you before the next time?
Well, it looks like some of it may be in this stack of paperwork that we was given tonight.
Okay.
And I don't know what's in there, what isn't in there.
Yeah, if I may, as long as you brought it up, the green stack of paper came from the Parks Board, and a woman came in at like 4:30 and said, I need to get this to council, and so I said, oh, okay. And so
It was Linda.
you've got it now in front of you. I don't even know what the content is, but...
The one thing I would like to see that, I mean, we've met with the port, I think, 3 times now. I have not seen a report from staff that says we need to address this because the Army Corps of Engineers has said it's a problem. It is a problem because of ODFW, fish habitat. The port is really the only people, and Ms. Stemple came in and made a presentation, or comments
Yes.
on the agenda item, but I haven't heard from staff what's important, is this important, why it's important, and a recommendation of any of the facts that you guys the staff has went through.
You also have next week coming is the Clackamas River Restoration Committee that will be coming to you, and I just got the data today, so I haven't had a chance to copy it and send it to you. But they're going to be doing some work on Dull Beach and have already pulled the permits, and Pete Boyce signed off on a lot of the stuff. So I'm assuming you guys have seen it before someplace, and they are very excited about the mitigation aspects of the port's deal. So you're going to have a whole lot more information from them, 1 in your emails, and 2 in a presentation next council meeting. And I'll be glad to put together a staff report with the facts as I know them and what we see. I know Scott Tabor's highly in favor of this. I don't have enough information to have a position, but I can get one before next time we get together.
The lead manager on this, Kelly, and I can't think of his last...
Madeline.
Yeah. Said he'd be sending us some hydro something reports as to with the...
hydrologist, yep.
And which...
Hydrodynamic, maybe that's what he was saying. Has to do with river flow, how it's going to change.
Yeah. So that's something that I'm real interested in seeing.
Okay.
And like I say, what's got us, we keep hearing that, as Kim mentioned, the Corps, is saying we need to do this, or the state, and just like to see their letter or whatever is is pushing us on this, and also as to, I guess maybe I was going to, I don't know if it's appropriate me asking them directly, but the mitigation that they're doing is, they're talking about $500,000 with the bulkhead and parking lot removal, if I remember right, or maybe it's a little more than that, but we're getting about $35,000 out of the deal. And my thought is we're losing a lower parking lot that a lot of people are going to be upset when it goes. Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No.
You could bang that drum, Neil.
Okay.
You
Well,
could bang it.
no, I'm just saying. So I'm thinking. Our Lake Oswego Tiger Partnership neighbors. Got a good deal on their pipe through town, and so I'm thinking maybe we can negotiate maybe something more in regards to this. Just a thought. I don't know.
You're asking for what to be in the packet, and the why do we have to do this, who's requiring it is very important to me. So I've really never seen anything. If the Army Corps of Engineers has written a letter and it's on Army Corps of Engineers letterhead with a signature under it, I'd like to see that letter. DEQ, ODFW, I don't know who's requiring this, so I'd very much like to see that. But I'd also like to put in a request that everything go into this packet. It's a public document, even if we've seen it before. It goes online, people do read it, so everything to date, all of the reports and the relevant data, and let's get it all in one place and have it available so the public can see it and so that we can review it. Those would be my two requests for the.
May we keep that electronic? My fear is that I'll be putting a packet together for you next week. It's got 100 pages in it. If you want it printed, I'll be glad to give it to you. But
it's happened in the past.
Okay.
It's not unprecedented. I know it wastes a lot of trees. We burn up a lot of copier machine. I think if there was a time for that, this would be the time it would be appropriate.
But why haven't we held on to everything we've been given to this point is my question. If this is such a big deal to everyone, then how come we got to keep regenerating this information time and time again?
Because it's been piecemealed.
Yeah.
So you cannot coalesce it yourself? We have to reprint the whole thing to go through it?
Well, it's just as I mentioned before, I just tossed out 2-3 boxes of staff reports over the last couple of years that I was holding on to so I could correlate and get things together. But I've got this stack of boxes in my basement that I'm trying to get out so that my wife stops calling me a hoarder.
And I think part of it is we don't even know what it is we don't have.
Mm-hmm. Like the hydro reports. We haven't seen those.
Because they haven't generated them yet.
Well, according to Kelly last night.
They haven't sent them to us yet.
Right.
Correct?
Right.
So we don't have them. That's why we don't have them, because they haven't sent them to us yet.
Okay.
And they said they were going to send them.
Correct.
So I'll go ahead and put a packet together. I think I'm going to send it to you email all first, if I may, and if you want me to print it out for you specifically, I'll be glad to do that as well. And if it means 7 packets, I'll put all 7, but I'll let those of you who want to go through it and those who don't.
So that you're sending electronic will be online, listed in the packet so the public can download it.
I'll link it to the website.
Okay.
So-
That would be fine.
Okay.
With me, it'd be fine.
Sure.
And that will be a continuation of the public hearing at our next meeting, right?
It's actually going to be a brand-new one, I
Okay.
think, because I also intend to post a couple of signs at the parking lot and let them know the public hearing's coming on the 10th, so at least we can catch those people that are actually using the facility to get here.
Want you to know that after some discussion and amongst both Parks Board members and others that were guests, they voted 4-2 in favor of this.
Okay. Thank you. Any other input you'd like before I venture this one on the agenda again? It'll be a public hearing and then the resolution, and you guys get to do what you do and debate it. So, thank you.
Business carried forward, updates.
Yes, sir. Been looking forward to this one. First off, update of council goals. I still don't have any, but is it time to start scheduling a retreat?
Yes.
Councilor Johnson suggested that this morning in a hallway conversation. So is it time to get your calendars out for January, or do you want to do that next month?
There are 3 Saturdays in January. I thought I had a piece of paper that had them on there, but I believe it's the 9th, the 16th, and the 23rd. I think we should pick one tonight.
I'd like to wait for the new manager to get on board and get that person up and running before we had it, but so I'd rather do it in February.
I disagree.
That would be...
It's all right.
I could run that one.
Well, this is council goals.
Yes.
And I think, and we may find out when we get down to item F, we may have a new city manager in January. I don't know that, but that might be a very good opportunity for him to, when he steps in, understand what the council goals are from day one. So, I mean, I can see some advantage to it. If we don't have a new city manager on board till later, I don't believe that's any reason for us to step aside and say, well, we shouldn't look at our goals. I think this should be a standard every January item.
I'm up for January 26th then. I have no idea if I work or not, but let's just line it up and do it then.
Do you want to do that as part of a council session, goals, like a work session before? Or do you want to take a half day? What's your pleasure as council?
Why don't we keep that Saturday open, and then we'll discuss it further as we get closer.
The 23rd is that the day you're talking about, which is, and I agree with pushing that out because my biggest fear, and this is selfish, I'll be glad to admit, is that you don't get a city manager or a city administrator on board here until the second week of January because they get through with their holidays, et cetera, and they step in, and then you've got a week to prep for goal settings. And so probably pushing that out as far as possible would be my thought.
The last one we had Mr. L.B. Day as a facilitator. I thought he did a real good job, and it's highly possible that a couple council members could work with him again if he was interested in doing it. And it may not take much on the city manager's part at all with...
And we could also do it on the 30th. There is a 30th in January.
Right.
That would be a Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be for the 23rd and to ask L.B. Day if he was available. And I'd be happy to ask him if the council would like. Sort of nods.
Works for me.
I will ask him and report back.
urban renewal map. I have done nothing other than talk to Clay Glasgow, and we're supposed to get together and figure out how to put that together. I haven't really completed any other work on that. The Jensen Road is now open to staff or to walkers and people. It's been paved and it is done.
Fantastic.
Lawyers for Tri-City, at the last council session, we talked about possibly the city hiring or engaging an attorney to represent us, Gladstone, in our conversations with Tri-City and the county in terms of what's best for Gladstone. I've had conversations with an attorney, and I'm sorry I don't have his name in front of me right now, but I talked to 3 different attorneys. One of them opted themselves out, and I thought this guy was the best. So I've got one. I'll send council a note that tells you who he is, and I'm assuming he can come on board and start talking to us right away. So if you've got questions about this, I don't know how you want to get at them, but we've got representation that's ours and not Barry Elsner.
Can we ask him to come up to speed and then come talk to us?
You bet.
I would think things are moving really fast with Tri-City, and the county is going into warp speed. So I think we need to be prepared. The November meeting would not be too soon to have a conversation with him, I don't think. But
well, let's. I'll have him here on November 10th as long as he's in town, and I haven't checked with him on that date.
Okay.
But why don't we have him for just conversation? We'll ask him to come up, and I don't know whether we can go into executive session or not. I'll ask him. He's an attorney, so we'll see if we got executive information or not, but I'll get him here for November 10th.
Okay.
Nothing else, you get to meet him, know who you're talking to.
Okay.
Park rules, I think that I sent a copy of what Doofman had to Councilor Reisner, so I don't know where they went from there, and so that one's...
The Parks Board is planning on looking at them in December.
Won't that be part of the Parks Master Plan?
No. I did some checking, and they're been in the works for almost 2 years now, and so their desire is to go through and get those going, because the master plan, I don't think is going to really affect the rules, or the rules affect the plan. And they can always be adjusted if we need to in the future.
And if it looks appropriate, you
Right.
could decide to make the rules as part of the park master plan. So,
Yeah.
but getting going now, it's been going for a long time.
Right. Exactly.
Plus, that's probably something that the Parks Master Plan would say, if it wasn't there already, would say, if you guys need to make some rules.
Yeah.
True.
While I'm on a roll, can you indulge me for a couple of more items that I would like to... I'm moving upstairs with our new accounting manager coming on board. We're looking for places to put her, and so she's going to take the old Pete Boyce office, and our accountant that's in here to help us with the audit is going to take my desk, so we have all the accounting group there. I'm going to go up to the judge's office, except for the days that court is in session, which I will politely ask council's indulgence so I can move into the mayor's office.
Take that office if you want it.
Yeah,
I was going to say the same thing, because I rarely use it.
I guess I'll stay out of there. That's kind of sacred ground. You guys deserve that spot. So anyway, I wanted to make sure you guys knew that, and that'll happen on Monday. I'll be moving up there. So if you come to see me, don't stop in that office. You'll get 2 women who won't be certain what it is you want to talk about. So I'm proposing right now no second meeting in November because it coincides with Thanksgiving, etc. I don't see any business out there that's pressing that has to be done, so unless you guys just want to get together and hang out, or something comes up with the executive review, I would not propose a second meeting in November. Speaking of second meeting and Thanksgiving, we've got a little issue at City Hall and even in the police department, not so much in Public Works, but the day after Thanksgiving is not a holiday, and everybody realizes that, but we have almost everybody wants to take a vacation day. So it puts Jolene and I in the position of kind of cutting the baby in half and who gets to go and who doesn't. And with that, what does council feel, since I think we took 5 payments last Friday after Thanksgiving in total between traffic and water, so being open is not important. My thought is to still make everybody take holiday pay, or they can come to work to a closed building, which is okay with me, but I'm thinking of closing the building for services on the day after Thanksgiving. Not giving the problem, if you give everybody the day off, you got to give everybody in the city the day off, and but the other problem is a lot of people want to take their own vacation time to go. So what's council's feeling on shutting the building on the day after Thanksgiving?
I'm perfectly all right with it. They just take vacation or vacation time for it, or come to work.
Or come to work, and they can work in a closed building as far as I'm concerned.
So what did you say about Public Works? Public Works?
Public Works is going to maintain a staff of some
Right.
sort, because they have to maintain that presence, and
Right.
there's people that are going to be here to support Public Works going on.
And is the library open that day?
Library will be open that day.
Okay, and we're not going to run into any union problems by doing this?
And once again, if they can schedule holiday time at the library, they've got a system for doing that and filling that in.
Right, but I mean here, if you close this building, we aren't going to run into any union problems anywhere?
Because they either have to take their vacation time
Right.
off or come to work. And
Yeah. And as long as it's vacation time, I'm okay with that, as long as it's not an official holiday. Yeah,
not
that's
an
fine with
official
me.
holiday.
Is there any issues with OSHA if only one person decides to come to work?
Well, the doors will be locked, so you don't have somebody breaking in on them. Of course, you do have the safety issue, but people come down here to work on their own from time to time anyway, so we'll check that, but I don't think there is. And frankly, I think everybody in we only got 4 or 5 people in that building. I think they all want to take the day off, so I don't think that will be as problematic.
Well, the police department lobby, would that be closed then also?
I think the lobby would be closed, but you've got the red phone, you got 911, and you got there'll be a staff on board that's not. It will be staffed, is what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
Close it.
Okay, thank you very much. You made a tough decision a lot easier for me. So those are the things I have, except then to talk about the recruitment process, and I'll be glad to start that when you guys are ready.
We are ready.
Okay, so then I have been sworn to secrecy on who they are, but I've seen all 24 applicants for the position. Looks like you guys are going to have a good set to choose from, not as much as other cities, but you're not exactly the biggest city in the state. And so with that, we have some really good candidates. Prothman will narrow them, as he stated, to about 10, maybe 9, maybe an 11. And I think I saw at least 7 in just the quick review I did that I think would certainly have the credentials to come in here. Prothman may know of other things that I don't know about for reasons to talk to people. November 9th is what he had on his list for first review or a work session. I think November 10th would probably be the day. That's a regular council meeting. I've asked him if he can show up on the 10th and then take you through that process, and he'll show you all 24 candidates. He'll also recommend probably like I say, a top 8 to 12, I don't know, for you to prioritize, and then you guys will get to choose the number that you want to interview. And this is my own conversation, but you probably want to probably pick 5, and then I would guarantee you by the time we can get them in here, at least one of them will drop out because they're also interviewing for other jobs, and a lot of times that's just the way that railroad runs. So that would be the November 10th interview. It would probably be better if we could hold that before council meeting, and even if we could start at 5 o'clock-ish, that would give you an hour and a half or so to go through all of those things, and then you could let Prothman get the heck out of here and go home after that. Otherwise, you got to pay him for a night to stay over. So getting him in and out of here first thing would be great. And these are just suggestions, by the way. I'm open to your comments. And so once those are all done, he's scheduled the first week in December for interviews. And that interview process can look like, and this is up to you guys, you get to choose what you want to do, but what they've done other places is they usually invite everybody in, and there are some out-of-state candidates here that look reasonable. So they would invite everybody in, you end up paying their airfare, generally, and a hotel room to put them up. And you would have a meet and greet that evening, which would be going someplace, and I don't know where, maybe the senior center, some other place. Jolene and I were talking today about that, where the whole city would be invited to come and meet the 4 or 5 candidates that you guys have selected. Let people have question cards, kind of like we did with the town hall. Let the candidates each have 5 minutes to introduce themselves to the city as a whole. Let people ask them questions about, where they come from. Keep it to a 10-minute max, so you don't have, a Donnybrook going on. But so that would be the meet and greet kind of format. And then the next day, I'm thinking you'd probably have 3 different committees set up, maybe 4 if you want, and you'd interview in different places. Maybe with the 3 committees, you'd have somebody else give each candidate a tour of the city, so you have hour chunks to go through each of those things. It takes about 5 hours to complete the whole interview process, and then do a debrief with all of the people that are on the committees, invite them into council chambers in executive session, and you guys get to ask, what were the candidates like? In that same day, you guys could then meet in your own executive session and decide whether you want to choose what you want to do next. And so you've got a pretty busy 2 days going on there. After that, once you've made your decision, one of the things that was a hole in Hood River that I went through is Hood River did a great job getting the candidate selected, making him an offer, got the money right, accepted, and then it was the contract. And nobody from council was really in charge of getting the contract done, because it's, I can come to work on January 5th. Is that okay? Well, I guess that's okay. I want a phone allowance. Well, okay, phone allowance. I want $70. Well, 60's all we want to spend. Well, okay. I want a car. All that other stuff. So I think it would be really good if you appointed either a person or a team or a committee, so you don't have to convene the whole council to decide on benefits and when they're supposed to report to work, when the first review is, what language goes into the contract for Christmas and New Year's and all that stuff. So just be thinking ahead a little bit about that and how you want to handle that stuff. So then, all of that having been said, is the 10th, first off, okay for Prothman to come down and do this primary review or preliminary review? It's all right?
Yep.
Okay. And
I have a question on that.
Sure.
And this is maybe an ignorant question, just
No,
because I
sir.
haven't been through the process before. we've got 24 applicants. Prothman's gonna narrow it down to 9 to 11, whatever, wherever he finds.
Whatever that cut is, yeah.
Wherever he decides that is. Is it possible to have the 24 applications in this building on file and his recommendation of 9 or 11 prior to that meeting for council to come in and review, just so we don't get at 5 o'clock on the 10th when he walks in, we get hammered with a whole bunch of information and we're trying to flip pages.
Yeah, I don't think that's a problem. I can't remember what we did at Hood River, but I think everybody had a stack of the applications or got them online. I can't remember what happened, but everybody had seen the applications before.
Greg Prothman said that he would provide an envelope for each council member.
Okay.
And he said that
Yeah.
it would have all of the resumes and his recommendations as the top candidates.
Right.
He said he would give us all to them, including those that he had rejected, and
Yeah.
we'd all get a packet. That's what he had said.
They do a really good job of keeping that information coming to you. I'm sorry, but yeah, that's what you're hiring them for. So.
Well, and I just, so we didn't just all of a sudden get all this
Right.
information, it'd be nice if we'd have it ahead of time to go through.
Yep.
If that's possible.
You will.
Wonderful.
Yes, sir.
When you were talking about the first week of December, you're talking like the first, second, third, or fourth?
Yeah, that's what he has on the schedule that
Right.
that he brought. So the first, I think, is Tuesday, if I'm
You're correct.
looking at it from here. So you need two days. So you want to go Tuesday, Wednesday. You want to go Wednesday, Thursday, Thursday, Friday. I mean, it's kind of up to you guys to set that. And Prothman will be available for both of those, but it's up to the candidates to travel in. And, I don't know. Don't know whether you want to make the decision even. You could probably wait until next council meeting before you had to make that, but...
Does it make a difference on that sort of thing if you add a Monday, Tuesday, or a Thursday, Friday that it would allow the candidates to travel on the weekends and be here? Some of them may have other jobs and they're working around. If you have it a Wednesday, Thursday, they might as well take the whole week off.
It seems like we've covered that before, and everybody agrees if they're interested in Gladstone, they'll take the week off. I mean, I think it's what's good for you guys is more to the point. I think the other thing is you'll have to wrestle with a little bit is the people that traveled from out of town wanted to bring their wives or significant others or whatever that relationship was, and is council going to pay for that, or is that on them? And does council pay for them to rent a car? What does council pay for? And I don't think you want to do that tonight, but think about that for next week, because that...
What have other cities done in those cases?
Well, and I'm just using Hood River because that was a real good recent one for me. We paid for the hotel room, and we paid for the airline ticket for the applicant, and I think we paid mileage from Portland PDX to Hood River and back. So if they wanted to rent a car, that was fine. If they wanted to hitchhike, they got money in the pocket, whatever they wanted to do there.
So spouse, significant other
Was on
not
them.
covered?
Yeah, it was on them.
Oh, it was on them, yes.
Yeah.
They did their own airfare if they wanted to come.
Well, I'm sorry. It was on the applicant, not on the city.
That's
Yeah.
right. Okay.
Yeah,
Great.
and I think we bought one dinner, and I think we did per diem, so we gave everybody $15 for dinner if they ate at McDonald's. If not,
Made money.
yeah.
So is that pretty much industry standard for paying their expenses?
I think it is
Going
industry.
to eliminate some good candidates if we don't do that?
You could. I mean, I think the view is if the city's not gonna, what's the rest of it gonna be like if they choose no here?
And I think we also have to look at what the packet is. They may all be from Oregon, so there may not be, or there may only be one airfare. So until the 10th, we'll have a better idea of what the potential expenses are. Because if they're all from Oregon, they can all drive, and
Yeah.
it's just a hotel room, which we're covering, so.
Yeah. Well, and then there's mileage too.
Mileage, yeah. But-
So, but there was a couple of intriguing applicants from Utah. I don't think that's tipping my hand too much there, so.
Is that a good state?
Well, the city hasn't had real good luck with people from Utah. I'm not saying, I'm sorry. So anyway, that's all I got. Make sure you're looking, I would keep that week, the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th open right now, unless you got something that's just pressing. I'm assuming you'll find enough applicants to interview when Prothman comes, and that's kind of just my evaluation. And the 10th, I'll have them in here. And we've talked to you about the other things that I think are good decisions, and I'll bring them back up again on the 10th with you. So, I don't know stuff. With that, I'm finally done. Thank you.
Okay, we'll do it again. Business from the audience. I don't see any yellow cards. Okay, that's done. Business from the council. Start on the right, Mr. Sick.
Couple of things. The town hall. I just do not want to go away without saying that I think it went really well. We had a little bit of a mic issue, but other than that, I thought staff did a wonderful job of putting it together, everybody involved. I thought the attendance, Tom's going to disagree with me because there wasn't 11,495 people there, so we didn't meet expectations. But I thought from history of previous city meetings, I think probably 115 chairs set up, and I think there was probably 3 or 4 that were empty, and there were people in the halls. So I think 115 to 120 is a really good number based on past. I think there were some tough questions that were thrown at us, and they come from all directions. I want to commend the council because I felt everybody dealt with all of them very professionally. I believe there was no sidestepping of, well, maybe we don't want to answer that. They answered the questions. Sometimes they liked the answer, sometimes not so much. But from where I was sitting, I felt it was very successful, and I think everybody on council and staff should be very proud of what we did. I've had a lot of comments since that have all been from the positive nature, even if they didn't like some of the things. But the comments were communication is good, and please don't stop doing this kind of thing. The other question comes from some of that. Council has received a couple of emails recently, and I see an email come in and everybody's listed on it. How do we decide? I don't think that all 7 of us should respond individually, but how do we determine? I mean, I think most of them, if somebody's going to take time to send us an email, I think somebody needs to respond. So I think at some point we need to discuss how we're going to deal with that so these emails don't sit out there with no response. So something to think about for discussion maybe at a later date. So
I want to add to what Kim said about the whole town hall going pretty well. I think the councilors all did a good job. We got some input where people critiqued from the outside, and some of it was that we should have a facilitator versus the mayor. And I would just like to make the comment and thank Mayor Jacobells. I thought he did a good job going through the whole thing, answering the questions, And being the facilitator, I thought you did a super job. And I appreciate that along with the other councils, so.
Thanks.
That's it.
Yeah, I think that the town hall also went well, and I want to thank the staff, Rhonda, Jolene, Robert, and anybody I missed.
Tammy.
Tammy, sorry, Tammy. Yeah, I think that sort of a program doesn't go off without people who are dedicated to that and who do an exceptional job, and I want to thank all of you for doing that. Charter Committee, we talked about that at one point in time. It has kind of dropped off of the radar. I wonder if we could start advertising for that position. I'd like to see advertisements in the city newsletter in November and December, with the goal of choosing committee members in January. If more discussion is needed, maybe we can have that as an agenda item on the 10th, which will be in time for the November newsletter anyway. But I'm concerned that we're dropping that, and I think it's very important to keep moving forward. Had the opportunity tonight to watch Chief Jolly actually working at the cops done cone, or whatever it was called, the thing at Baskin Robbins. That looks like that was a very good event. It was a lot of fun. It was fun to talk to folks and see the goings on there. Thank you very much for doing that. Yeah, he's got that scooping down pat. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Neil? No. Ditto what you guys said about the town hall. I think it was a great success, and I want to thank you and, like I say, all the other staff that helped out, made us look good. Piggybacking on what Steve was just talking about with advertising for the Charter Committee, I think we need to get in next month's newsletter. We have several other advisory committees that have appointments that are going to be expiring at the end of the year, and I'd like to have us make those appointments in December so that they're ready to go in January. I know the Parks, I believe, has Greg Bender resigned a couple of months ago, moved out of town, and I don't know if we ever advertised for that or not. But so there's one opening plus those that are expiring. So if we could get that going, and then also we've for the last year or two have had a conflict with the Parks Board and Traffic Safety meeting on the same night at the same place. Generally, what we've done is just kind of alternated meeting times. But there has been in the last couple of months where they both were wanting to meet at the same time and didn't realize it until like the last minute. So I talked with the Parks Board last night and asked if they'd be interested in maybe moving their meeting night from the last Monday of the month, which has been their, like I say, both meeting night for years. I can't remember when it hasn't been that, to maybe the first Monday of the month. And they're receptive to that at 7 o'clock. And so I don't know if we need to take any official action or not, but I wanted to bring that forward. So they're planning on not meeting next month, but the first Monday in December. As I mentioned earlier.
We'll make those changes on the website. I mean, unless there's some big complaint, I don't think there's anything
There's no other
official.
conflicts.
No, because
Those are
the
the
library
only-
meets on, I think on Tuesday, the first
Tuesday.
first Tuesday, and the senior center meets
Third Tuesday,
third Tuesday.
every 3 months.
Right, and so does Planning Commission meets on the third Tuesday, and then we've been the second and fourth. So Traffic Safety would still be meeting on that fourth Monday. So I think that will help out with keeping the conflicts from from occurring in the future. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Counselor Johnson, I have to apologize. I even put it in my computer yesterday or the day before for the coffee with a counselor, and I got to raking the leaves and picking up all the pine needles from the tree, and a beer sounded good, and I had a beer and pork chops, and I completely forgot about it until a half hour ago, so I apologize for that.
No worries.
And I was going to go have ice cream afterwards, so I hope there's still ice cream left. Okay, so I'm gonna stop by after the meeting tonight. That's all I have.
Mr. Mayor? Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to follow up on Councilor Johnson's charter committee. I would love to bring charter committee goals and objectives or whatever, so everybody could agree on what their task is. Can I just speak with Councilor Johnson on that, kind of one-on-one, and then bring that back to the council? Council have any trouble with that? Somebody else want input into that?
Didn't we select a charter committee from the council?
Yes.
Already. I think there was a subcommittee that was chosen. I think there was 3 people. I'd have to go back and look and see who they were, but I believe we did that.
Was that recently? And I'm getting older, so it's really possible.
Yeah,
I was going to say, I thought it was...
Was it? Okay, I'll go back through the notes and make sure I get that, because I just want to get that ready, so when you come on the 10th, you can approve the committee. The mayor can make the recommendation.
I think
you
the
guys
committee that we're advertising for is the public side
Right.
of that.
Right.
Okay.
But, maybe you could meet, if we find that we did appoint a council subcommittee.
I'll just get all 3 of them.
Meet with the 3
Yep.
of them.
Yep, we'll take care of it.
May I ask, so I can tell Tammy for the newsletter, does the council wish to have, to choose a charter committee January or December? Councilor Johnson said January, Councilor Reisner, I believe, said December.
Councilor Reisner, I think, was talking about parks and some other
Yeah,
one.
I was talking about the other advisory committees where they expire at the end of the year.
Okay, so did I mishear that nobody requested to have a charter committee chosen in December? It was all-
No,
okay.
I was saying, let's advertise it for 2 months and choose in January.
Okay,
Yeah.
my mistake, thank you.
That was my thought.
Sorry to take your time.
Okay. Did you guys at Parks get RFQs out, or where are we at on that?
Yes,
I believe they're in this.
it's in the green thing where we pretty much went with, thanks for bringing that up. The only thing that's really going to need to be adjusted is the dates for what was presented.
Okay, so what,
Right,
so I'm kind of,
So they made a recommendation to City Council, which I haven't had a chance to talk with Ross, is that this will my guess, I'm proposing that we look at it on the 10th. They made a recommendation to City Council to adopt the RFQ that they had before them last night.
okay.
Mr. Mayor, it's page 10 of the green sheets.
Yeah. So we can take it, leave it, modify it, use it for scratch paper, whatever, you think is... It is green, so it's environmentally safe, I would assume.
So then is this coming in front of us then on the 10th?
I don't know, I haven't
Okay.
even looked
All
at
right,
that.
all right.
Yeah,
Document.
I said, we haven't had a chance
So I'll wait to
to
hear.
talk, and I apologize, I should have called you earlier
Oh,
today.
that's fine. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's it. That's all I have. Meeting adjourned.